Manning's formula. So in both the cases, right, there will be difference in the quality of the liquid. In case of water supply system, the quality of the water will be very good. So it will be carrying potable water, which will be free from bacteria, suspended solids, right? Treated water will be supplied in the distribution system. So it will be passed under pressure. Whereas if I'm going to consider the sewerage network, here since it consists of the sediment, suspended solid, human night soil, and apart from that, gases will also be generated whenever the sewage will be flowing in the sewer. So, because of all these things, what will happen will not be carrying the sewage under pressure. So, non pressure type of pipes will be used for the sewerage network. That's what we have discussed in past few classes. So that means we'll be giving some allowances in case of circular section wherein full depth of flow will not be allowed. So if I'm saying full depth of flow, that means can you see the outer green colored shadow? Yeah, please unmute your mic and you answer the question.
Yes, sir. We can see.
Yeah. Use a laser point so it will help you people to understand what I'm exactly trying to tell. See here, the outer perimeter, right? It is the outer diameter of the pipe. That means whatever the greenish colored shadow I have shown, this is nothing but the thickness of the pipe. Let us say it is 2.5 centimeter. So can you see the laser point that is marked at the bottom of the sewer?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
This is called as invert of the pipe. Okay, not the outer bottom side. It is a inside bottom surface of the pipe. This one is called as invert, right? This is called as crown. So that means whenever we are laying the pipeline, we'll be considering the invert of the pipe. This is called as invert of the pipe. So let me mark it, correct? So it will be easy for you people to understand. Can you see now? So this is the crown. That means always when we are talking about crown, correct, we'll be wearing it on the head, top of the head. So crown. This is the invert. So as a civil engineer, you will be referring to invert of the pipe whenever you are talking about slopes and other things. So that means we'll be referring to invert of the pipe. We will not be considering the thickness of the pipe. The outer thickness will not be considered. So if I'm saying, let us say this is a ground surface, right? This is a ground surface. So we'll be referring to invert level. See here, if I consider this one as a ground level, so that means I'll be referring to invert level from the mean sea level, right? If I am checking the level, that means if it is say 101 meters above the mean sea level, then we'll be calling it as invert level of 101 meter. Then you will be adding for what is called as the difference between the invert and the ground level. It might be 1.25 or 1.3 meters, something like that. So now the question comes, what should be the difference between ground level and the crown level? So this totally depends on the amount of load coming on the pipe and which type of pipe you have used. So to be on safer side, we'll be going for a difference of 0.6 to 0.9 meter. Let us say I have considered or I have opted for 0.9 meter difference the ground level and the crown level. Let us say the diameter of the pipe is 150 mm. That means the invert level of the pipe, if I have 100 meters, in that case, what will be the ground level? So if this is a problem that is being asked, that means invert level is 100 meters and diameter of the pipe is 150. That means if I'm talking about invert level, let us say it is 100 meters. In that case, in that particular case, so the ground level is going to be 100 meters plus I need to consider what the diameter of the pipe, that means it is 150 mm, that means in terms of meters it is going to be 150 by 1000, that means 0.15 meter plus I need to consider the thickness of the pipe. Let us say the pipe thickness is 25 mm, so that means it is going to be 0.025 plus the difference between crown level and invert level, crown level and ground level is how much? It is going to be 0.9 meters. So now you calculate for it. Now you are going to get that this is 100.9. So 101.05. So if I'm going to make use of calculator,
Hundred and 1.075.
101 point.
075.
Yes. So that means this is how you will be estimating the ground level, 101.075. That is in terms of meters. That means what I have done, I have considered mean sea level. That means let us say, just to make you people understand a little bit more. So I'll just take this one as the mean sea level. So this is going to be 0. So whatever the orange colored line I used, that means this level is equal to 0. That means 100 meter is the invert level. That means this particular point of the pipe that is invert of the pipe is 100 meters above the mean sea level. Why we always refer to mean sea level? Why not sea level? The reason is that sometimes there will be high tides, sometimes there will be low tides in the sea. So we have to refer to the mean value. That means we'll be considering mean sea level. So whenever a civil engineer is going to talk about laying of the pipe, that means he needs to refer to invert and invert level, right? The slope will be laid, the slope of the pipe will be laid with respect to previous invert level of the pipe. Are you getting my point? I repeat, we will not be laying the pipeline with respect to ground level. We'll be considering the invert level. See what happens if the ground is undulating. The ground is undulating. So if the ground is undulating something like this, right? If I go on referring to the ground level here, what will happen? There might be a reverse flow. I cannot refer to ground level here. I have to refer to the invert level, which is laid below the ground. As per that, I'll be laying the pipeline. So please understand, if the ground is undulating, then in that case, if you are planning to lay the pipe with reference to ground level, it may not work. Sometimes the pipe section might be coming out of the ground. Sometimes it might have reverse flow. So for all these purposes, we'll not be going for referring of the ground level for this particular laying of the pipes. So in this particular case, in today's class and next few classes, we'll be discussing with respect to arriving or estimation of the diameter of the pipeline for carrying sewage and rainwater. So my question was, if we consider that the pipe is carrying the water to the full depth, that means full circular section of the pipe is having water. See, whenever we are talking about continuity equation, or whenever we make use of Q is equal to AV, that is Q is nothing but discharge is equal to area multiplied by velocity, we refer to what is called as cross-sectional area. We don't refer to longitudinal area. In the previous semester, I think to A and B division, I have told you the difference between L section and cross section. So cross section refers to either diameter of the pipe if it is circular in section, or it refers to B multiplied by D if we consider the rectangular section. So whenever we consider the flowing liquid in the pipe, we need to refer to what is called as wetted area, wetted perimeter. Okay, all these things will be coming. So let us say a circular section of the pipe is carrying a liquid, irrespective of whether it is water, oil, or sewage. Let it be anything. In general, we'll consider. In that case, what is the area with which this particular liquid is flowing? If diameter is, let us say, 2 meters. So in that case, the cross-sectional area with which the liquid is flowing in this sewer or pipeline is going to be pi by 4 d square. If it is 2, if the diameter is 2, see, diameter means what? So diameter means we'll be considering the interior diameter, not the exterior diameter. Okay, internal diameter will be considered. Right? So radius is d by 2. Okay. So area is equal to pi by 4 d square. That is what the cross-sectional area is going to be. The wetted perimeter is going to be pi multiplied by d. What is the Hydraulic mean depth, that is nothing but proportion or ratios of wetted area to wetted perimeter. That means pi by 4 d square divided by pi d. That means if the liquid is flowing to the full depth, then R is going to be d by 4. As I told, for sewer, we'll be making use of Manning's equation, that is V is equal to 1 by N R raised to 2/3 S raised to half. R is nothing but rugosity coefficient. It depends on the type of the surface and its smoothness. So the value might vary between 0.011 to 0.015 depending on the type of the surface. Again, there are rarest of rare cases for the N values as well. What is R? R is nothing but d by 4 for this condition, that is when the liquid is flowing to the full depth. That is, the depth of the liquid flowing in a pipe is equal to diameter of the pipe. Full depth of flow means when the depth of flow of the liquid is equal to internal diameter of the pipe, then we call it as full depth of flow. Half full means when the flow of liquid or when the depth of flow of flow of the liquid is equal to half of the diameter, that is internal diameter, we'll be calling it as half full, right? What is partial depth of flow? Partial depth of flow, let us say either the depth of flow will be less than half the diameter or it might be greater than half the diameter. So just to show that, okay, here this is an example wherein the depth of flow here, right, AB, right? So the line joining AB is a top surface of the liquid that is flowing. That means in that case, how to estimate the diameter. So these things we'll be discussing. So if we know the velocity, if we know the discharge, in that case, can we arrive at the diameter of the pipe? So Q is equal to what? AB. If velocity is known, Q value is known. Q value will be known based on the population, correct? And per capita water demand. Q we will calculate. In previous classes we have discussed. V value, I'll come back to that. If it is known, let us say self-cleansing velocity of 0.6 meter per second. If it is there, that means area is equal to Q by V. So that means pi by 4 d square is equal to some value we'll get. So D is equal to, you will find out. This is applicable when the sewer is carrying the sewage with a depth of diameter. That means small d, depth of flow is equal to diameter. So in that case it is applicable. But practically it is not applicable because none of the civil engineer is going to allow the sewage to flow to the full depth of the diameter. So that means it's not possible. So in that case, this won't work. These formulas will be used, right? But it won't work. So we'll be designing for partial depth of flow. So either we'll be considering 80% flow or many times the sewage that will be flowing in the pipeline will be less than the radius, or D is smaller than D by 2. So see here, this is a case we are going to have. So now the question comes, what should be the velocity of the discharge or sewage that will be flowing in the sewer should have velocity equal to how much? That is what the question is. So there are two things we need to understand. One is called as a self-cleansing velocity and another one is called as non-scoring velocity. So self-cleansing velocity is a minimum velocity with which the suspended solids can be transported from one point to the point under consideration or the treatment facility. That means you have flushed the toilet, right? So that whatever the waste is there, it should be carried from your location to 10 kilometers away from that place. That means some velocity is required, some driving force is required to transport that waste. If that driving force is not there, then the waste will go on accumulating in the pipeline and ultimately it will get clogged. So that means which is the driving force in that case? There are two things we need to understand. One comes the discharge and another comes the diameter, and third one comes the slope with which the pipeline is laid. So slope is very important, right? You cannot lay the pipeline as per your wish. So that means it has to be laid at particular slope. So for that reason, we are making use of here Manning's equation. However, in the exam, you will be asked to make use of Hazen-Williams formula as well instead of Manning's equation. So you should be prepared for that as well. Okay, but the basic concept remains same. That means here what we are doing is we are going to lay the pipeline with some slope so that the material will be transported from the point where it is generated or where it is disposed to the point under consideration. Either it might be a treatment plant, or it might be a river, it might be a lake, it might be agricultural land. To that particular place, it should be transported without causing any clogging problem or choking problem. That is self-cleansing velocity. Usually for the trunk sewer, so trunk sewer means what? Main sewer. That means the main pipeline of a village or a town which will be carrying the maximum flow of the sewage or city sewage. That sewer we call it as trunk sewer. What do you mean by outfall sewer? Outfall sewer is nothing but the point where the sewage is being discharged. The pipeline which will be carrying the sewage for disposal at the disposal point, we call it as outfall sewer or outfall point. So I have made use of some terminologies. You just make a note and you can go through these things little bit more by referring to some of the textbooks. Anyway, so some notes I might have already shared. So you just go through that. What do you understand by trunk sewer? What do you understand by outfall sewer? What do you understand by outfall point? What do you understand by laterals? What do you understand by drains? All right. So the pipeline that is used to flush the to drain off the flushed materials from the toilet, right? We call it as drain. As soon as the sewage will be joining at the outskirts of your compound wall, right? So that pipeline which will be receiving the sewage from the houses, that pipeline is called as lateral, right? So there will be one pipeline which will be receiving all the city sewage. It will be called as main sewer, or it will be called as the trunk sewer. The point where the sewage is disposed of, it is called as outfall point, and the pipeline carrying it, we call it as outfall sewer. Okay, and this is what I can tell you. So in the last few minutes, we have discussed with respect to what is the crown of the pipe, which one you call it as an invert of the pipe. I told you by what method we'll be laying the pipe, that is, we'll be referring to what is called as invert level, and the slope will be considered from the invert level itself, not with respect to ground level. Please understand this. if the depth of the liquid or depth of the sewage in the pipeline is equal to internal diameter, so we call it as full depth. In that case, wetted area is going to be pi by 4 d square, wetted perimeter is going to be pi d, and velocity is going to be 1 by n r raised to 2/3 s raised to half. And what is R? R is nothing but hydraulic mean depth. It is a nothing but ratio of wetted area to wetted perimeter. What is N? N is nothing but rugosity coefficient. S is the slope with which the pipeline will be laid. If we know velocity, if we know the discharge, then we can arrive at the diameter. If we consider full depth of flow. If I am talking about partial depth of flow, right? So let us say now, is the slide visible?
Yes, sir.
Can you see the picture clearly? Is the picture very clear with the alphabeticals and other things that is being mentioned?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So what I have taken is I have taken a circular section of the pipe. I have considered the internal diameter of the pipe. So whatever the point why I'm referring, it is with respect to invert of the pipe. I'm not referring to invert level. I'm referring to invert of the pipe. Whenever I say invert, so that means I'm referring to that point. If I'm talking about invert level, I'll be talking in terms of the difference between mean sea level and the invert of the pipe. Understand this? Okay. Now let us say the depth of the liquid in the sewer, that is circular sewer, is D, small d. Small d is nothing but xy. That means here d is nothing but x and y. That means the length or the depth. Okay. What is OA and what is OB? This is nothing but d by 2. Is nothing but the radius. Can you see here? OA is equal to OB. It is nothing but what? The radius. Am I correct? Here. OA and OB, if I'm going to take. So it is nothing but radius. What about OY? OY is also a radius. So that means I'll consider OY. Right? Now the question comes, what is OY? OY is nothing but, right, OX plus XY. So if I consider OY, it is nothing but D by 2, right? That is equal to OX plus XY. If I would like to go for determining XY, that means XY is equal to D by 2 minus of what is called as OX, right? What is OX? OX is nothing but D by 2 cos, right? I'll consider the angle as theta by 2. So So how I got d by 2 cos theta by 2, you can ask me this question. So how I got is, since there are two right angle triangles, so OAB is nothing but OAX plus OXB. That means there are two right angle triangle. That means AXO or OXB, if you consider, it is having an angle of 90 degrees. That means I'll be making use of the basic trigonometry. So wherein if I consider the angle made by AOB as theta, so that means the angle made by AOX is going to be theta by 2. Similarly, the angle made by XOB is going to be theta by 2. See here, if I consider the angle made by AOB as theta, this triangle AOB is having two symmetrical triangles. That means the area of OAX is equal to the area of OXB, because length of the adjacent side, right, hypotenuse are same. That means OA is equal to OB. If I consider two triangles, OAX and OBX, in this case, OA is equal to OB, AX is equal to XB, and OX is a common line. So that means in that case, if there is an angle that is being made by AOB is equal to theta, in that case, the angle made by AOX is equal to angle made by BOX, that is nothing but theta by 2. If I consider that, if this is an angle, that is angle AOX, if I consider in the triangle AOX, in that case, if it is theta by 2, right, if I take sine theta by 2, that means opposite side is AX, hypotenuse is AO, that means sine theta by 2 is equal to AX divided by OA. If I consider cos theta by 2, it is going to be OX divided by OA. What is OX? OX is what? So in that case, OX is equal to hypotenuse multiplied by cos theta by 2. So hypotenuse is what? OA, which is nothing but D by 2, and multiplied by cos theta by 2. So you can check it in the other round. What is cos theta by 2? Cos theta by 2 is nothing but OX divided by OA. What is OX? OX is equal to OA multiplied by cos theta by 2. What is OA? It is D by 2. Similarly, if I consider for the triangle BOX, if the angle made by BOX is theta by 2, in that case, what is OX? So we need to consider cos theta by 2. So cos theta by 2 is equal to adjacent side of theta by 2 is OX divided by hypotenuse is OB. That means OX divided by OB is equal to cos theta by 2. So OX is equal to OB multiplied by cos theta by 2. So what is OB? OB is nothing but D by 2 cos theta by 2. So whether you consider the triangle AOX or BOX, it is going to be the same, irrespective of whether you consider OX, or if you would like to find out AX or XB, or if you would like to know OA or OB, the values of OA and OB will be same, AX and XB will be same, and OX will be same. So this is how I can come to one conclusion. So this is a basic trigonometry that I have discussed. So what I will do, I'll just finish with my session. I